The most dangerous challenges. BlackOut Challenge. Let's start with the trend that has killed more kids than all the others combined. And when I say killed, I mean literally. This isn't a metaphor, this isn't an exaggeration. Kids died. The BlackOut Challenge, also known as the choking game or pass out challenge. And if those names are already making you uneasy, good, because this is exactly as dangerous as it sounds. Here's how it works. You take something, a belt, a scarf, your hands, a rope, whatever, and you cut off your oxygen supply. Completely. You compress your carotid artery or choke yourself until you pass out. The idea is that when you black out and then come back around, you supposedly experience a brief high, a rush of euphoria from the sudden flood of oxygen returning to your brain. Before you think, well, that's obviously dangerous, who would actually do this? Let me give you the numbers. At least 82 children have died from this challenge since 1995 in the United States alone. And those are only the documented cases. The real number is likely much higher. But here's what's really dark. This trend existed long before the internet. Kids were doing this on school grounds in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. It was that weird, dangerous thing everyone had heard about, but few actually tried. And then TikTok came along. In 2021, the BlackOut Challenge exploded on the platform. Videos with that hashtag started racking up millions of views. And suddenly, this went from being some rare schoolyard thing to a full-on viral trend. Kids all across the country were filming themselves doing it and dying. When did you last think about death? You were probably older than 10. Joshua Halesis from Colorado was 12. He tried the BlackOut Challenge in his room, alone, with his phone recording. His younger brother found him unconscious. He spent 19 days in a coma and died, 12 years old. Nyla Anderson from Pennsylvania. She was 10. 10! She did it while her family was downstairs. By the time they found her, it was too late. Archie Battersby from the UK, 12 years old. His mom found him with a rope around his neck, phone still on, and the list goes on and on and on. Here's what kills me about this. Literally every single one of these kids thought they were just filming a quick video. They'd seen other people doing it online. They'd seen those people come back around laughing. They didn't understand that the difference between a viral video and death is literally seconds. Because here's what happens when you cut off oxygen to your brain. Within 10 seconds, you start losing consciousness. Within 30 seconds, you can suffer irreversible brain damage. Within 4 to 6 minutes, death. And when you're alone in a room with no one there to save you, those seconds are all you've got. And you know what's the most twisted part? A lot of these kids weren't even doing it for the high. They didn't even know about the euphoria. They did it because it was a trend, because other kids were doing it, because they wanted to feel like part of something. They wanted content for their TikTok. The parents of the kids who died started filing lawsuits against TikTok. Their argument is simple. TikTok's algorithm deliberately pushed this content to children because the algorithm doesn't care about safety, it cares about engagement. And kids choking themselves unconscious, that's some high engagement content right there. TikTok, of course, says they remove this kind of content, that they have safety systems, that they're working on the problem. But the reality is the content gets taken down after it's already racked up millions of views. The damage is already done. And that raises a deeper question. At what point do we say the platform is responsible? If your algorithm promotes content that kills children, are you just going to shrug and say, hey, we tried? IceCream Licking Challenge. 2019, summer, hot. People all across America walking into stores, opening freezer doors, pulling out containers of ice cream and licking them, just popping the lid, licking the ice cream, closing it back up and putting it back on the shelf, filming it, posting it online, and walking away. I want you to picture that for a second. You come home on a hot summer day, you open your Ben & Jerry's fish food that you just bought. You grab a spoon, ready to dig into that chocolatey goodness. And you have absolutely no idea that some random teenager licked it 3 days ago because they thought it would be funny. It started with one girl in Texas. She walked into a Walmart, opened a container of Bluebell ice cream, that's a beloved local Texas brand, licked it, laughed into the camera, and put it back. The video went viral instantly, millions of views in just a couple of days. And then the copycat wave hit. Suddenly, kids and teenagers all over the country were doing the same thing. Louisiana, California, Florida, everywhere. Different stores, different ice cream brands, same idea. Lick a product that someone else is going to buy and eat. Bluebell Creameries, the company whose ice cream that first girl licked, was forced to put out a statement. They started adding extra protective seals to their products. Walmart, Target, and other retailers installed additional cameras in their frozen food sections. And the police? Oh, they were not playing around. The girl from Texas was tracked down. She was facing 2 to 20 years in prison for tampering with a consumer product. That's a federal crime, by the way. In the end, she wasn't in prison because it turned out she was 17 and a minor. But the message was sent. Other people who copied the trend weren't so lucky. Some were arrested, some were hit with thousands of dollars in fines. And honestly, rightfully so. Because let's talk about why this is so messed up. It's not just gross, though it's definitely gross, it's dangerous. You're passing your saliva on to strangers. Your saliva can carry bacteria, viruses, diseases. Hepatitis A, mono, herpes, COVID, though this was pre-pandemic, or just a plain old cold. The FDA put out a statement reminding people that tampering with food is no joke. It's a federal offense. You can go to prison, and they weren't bluffing. They actually started going after people. But you know what's the strangest thing about this story? This trend revealed something really dark about social media culture. People were willing to risk prison time for a viral video, for a few seconds of fame, for likes from strangers, and it worked. Those videos racked up millions of views. The people who did it gained followers, attention, news interviews. Negative attention is still attention, and for some people, that was worth the risk. After the IceCream Licking Challenge, variations started popping up. People were licking door handles in stores, toothbrushes, deodorant sticks, anything on shelves that could be touched and put back. Everyone was trying to find the next shocking thing to make content out of. Stores started changing how they package products. More plastic seals, more protective packaging, all of that adds costs that ultimately get passed on to consumers. So thanks, ice cream lickers. Now we're all paying more for products with extra packaging because you couldn't keep your mouths to yourselves. Now, let's talk about the trend that turned your parents' medicine cabinet into a potential weapon. And when I say weapon, I mean against yourself. Benadryl challenge. TikTok decided that an allergy medication was the new way to get high. Spoiler alert, it's a terrible idea. Okay, quick science lesson. Benadryl is the brand name for diphenhydramine, an antihistamine you'd normally take when you have allergies, got a mosquito bite, or ate something that gave you a rash. A normal dose is 25 to 50 milligrams, 1 or 2 pills. It makes you a little drowsy, stops the itching, and you get on with your life. But in 2020, some geniuses on TikTok discovered that if you take a massive overdose, we're talking 12 to 15 pills at once, 300 to 700 milligrams, you can hallucinate. And they thought, wow, a free trip. Let's make this a trend. Here's the problem. These aren't fun hallucinations. This isn't, wow, I'm seeing beautiful colors and feeling one with the universe. This is, I don't know where I am, who I am. Reality is falling apart, and I'm seeing spiders that don't exist. Levels of psychosis. It's called delirium. People who took those doses described absolutely terrifying experiences. They saw people in their rooms who weren't there. They talked to objects. They couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't. Some tried to do dangerous things, walking outside in the middle of the night, getting behind the wheel of a car, interacting with things that didn't exist. And that's still not the worst part. A Benadryl overdose can cause serious medical complications. Seizures, heart problems, your heart can beat erratically or way too fast, breathing difficulties, and death. Yes, people died from this. There were documented cases of teenagers being hospitalized after trying the Benadryl challenge. ERs across the country started seeing a spike in diphenhydramine overdoses among teenagers. Doctors were stunned because normally a Benadryl overdose is either an accident or a suicide attempt. But these kids were doing it deliberately, for fun, for TikTok. The FDA issued an official warning in September 2020. They literally put out a public statement saying, "We are aware of news reports of teenagers ending up in emergency rooms or dying after participating in the Benadryl challenge, encouraged in videos posted on the social media application TikTok." Let's talk about specific cases because this matters. Chloe Phillips, 15, from Oklahoma. She tried the Benadryl challenge. She had a heart attack. She died, 15 years old. Jacob Stevens, 13, from Ohio. Same thing. Overdose, cardiac arrest, death. These weren't kids with problems, weren't kids from troubled homes. These were ordinary teenagers who saw a trend on TikTok and thought, this looks safe, other people are doing it. And here's what really gets me. Most of these kids probably had no idea they were taking a dangerous dose. They were just following instructions from videos. Take 12 pills, film your reaction. They trusted information from the internet more than the warning label on the box. Parents started hiding their Benadryl. Pharmacies started keeping it behind the counter in some stores. Schools were sending letters home to families with warnings. It was total chaos. And TikTok, they said they were removing content related to the Benadryl challenge because it violated their community guidelines. But as always, the content was getting taken down only after it had already racked up millions of views. Kids had already seen it. The damage was already done. What truly scares me about the Benadryl challenge is what it reveals about how easy it is to weaponize everyday household items. This isn't some obscure drug. It's a medication found in practically every home in America. Your parents give it to you when you have allergies. It's considered safe. But at the wrong dose, it can kill you. And social media turned it into a game. Honestly, this also exposes a massive problem with how young people understand risk. When you see hundreds of videos of people doing something and surviving, your brain automatically thinks, well, if they can do it, so can I. You don't see the people who ended up in the hospital. You don't see the ones who died. You only see the successful videos where people are laughing at their hallucinations. That's survivorship bias in action, and it's getting people killed. If you thought we'd hit rock bottom, let me introduce you to the trend that sounds like something out of a fever dream after watching too many episodes of Breaking Bad. Sleepy chicken, also known as NyQuil chicken. Yes, exactly what you're thinking. People were cooking chicken in NyQuil. Let's just take a second to appreciate the absurdity of this. Someone looked at a chicken breast, then looked at a bottle of blue cough medicine and thought, you know what? Let's combine these two things. And then, this is the important part, decided to share it with the internet. Visually, it looks like something out of a sci-fi horror movie. Chicken floating in a bright blue liquid, bubbling in a pan, releasing vapors that look toxic. Because they are toxic. It looks like something Walter White would cook up if he had a really weird day off. Now, before we go further, it's worth noting, most people who made Sleepy Chicken didn't eat it. It was mostly shock content. Look at this disgusting thing I'm doing. But the problem isn't the eating, the problem is the cooking process itself. When you heat NyQuil, you change its chemical composition. The medication starts to evaporate, creating vapors that you're inhaling. And those vapors are far more concentrated than if you'd just taken the recommended dose. You're essentially hotboxing yourself with cough medicine. NyQuil contains several active ingredients: acetaminophen, Tylenol, dextromethorphan, a cough suppressant, and doxylamine, an antihistamine that makes you drowsy. When you inhale the concentrated vapors of these substances, you can overdose through your lungs. The FDA, yes, them again, poor guys, put out a statement in September 2022. Imagine working at the Food and Drug Administration. You devoted years to education, worked on serious medical issues, and now you have to write an official document that says, please don't cook food in medicine. That's your legacy. Here's what they said. Boiling a medication can make it much more concentrated and change its properties in other ways. Even if you don't eat the chicken, inhaling the medication's vapors while cooking could cause high levels of the drugs to enter your body. It could also hurt your lungs. But let's talk about why this even became a thing. Sleepy Chicken originally appeared as a shitpost, an intentionally dumb meme, back in 2017 on 4chan. It was a joke, satire. Look at this ridiculous thing that nobody would actually do. And then 2022 came, TikTok happened, and suddenly people were actually doing it. Because in the 2020s, irony died. People saw the meme, didn't realize it was a joke, and thought, this looks wild, let me try it for content. And this is a pattern we see again and again. Something starts as a joke, someone does it unironically, it goes viral, more people copy it, the media covers it, and suddenly you've got a genuine health crisis. There were reports of teenagers who tried it and ended up in hospitals with respiratory problems. There were people who inhaled the vapors and experienced dizziness, nausea, and confusion. Some may have even eaten it, though I honestly can't imagine how you could eat something that smells like a chemical plant disaster. And you know what's the saddest part? The chicken doesn't even cook properly in NyQuil. It's not a real cooking liquid. You're basically creating toxic waste with raw meat sitting in it. So even if you were crazy enough to eat it, you'd probably get food poisoning on top of a drug overdose. Double whammy. Sleepy Chicken also raises an interesting question about how platforms moderate content. TikTok claims they removed dangerous challenges, but Sleepy Chicken circulated for months before they started seriously taking it down. Why? Because it looked ridiculous. It looked like a joke. iModeration couldn't figure out, is this satire or genuinely dangerous content? The line between meme and real danger has been crossed for good, and the young teenagers can't tell the difference. Chroming challenge. And no, this trend has nothing to do with Google Chrome, though honestly, it would have been better if it did. Chroming is a term that came from Australia, and it means inhaling toxic fumes from household products to get high. We're talking about spray paint, permanent markers, deodorant, hairspray, compressed air, gasoline, paint thinner, nail polish remover. Basically, if it comes in an aerosol can and smells like chemicals, someone has probably tried to inhale it. It's called chroming because the term originally referred specifically to inhaling chrome-based paint. But now it's a catch-all term for any kind of inhalant abuse. And here's what's truly horrifying. Chroming can kill you instantly, literally on the very first try. It's called sudden sniffing death syndrome. You inhale the fumes, your heart starts beating irregularly, and you drop dead, just like that. No warning signs, no second chance. In 2023, chroming started going viral on TikTok. Videos showed teenagers inhaling deodorant or spray paint, getting disoriented, laughing, acting erratic. Hashtags were racking up hundreds of millions of views. And then the stories of deaths started coming in. Ezra Haynes, 13 years old, from Australia. She was at a sleepover with friends. They decided to try chroming, inhaling fumes from an aerosol deodorant can. Ezra collapsed. She went into cardiac arrest. She was rushed to the hospital, but her brain had been too severely damaged from oxygen deprivation. She spent a week on life support and died. 13 years old, at a sleepover with her friends. Her parents later became activists, trying to warn other kids. Her father said in an interview that she had everything going for her. It was just one night, one decision, and now she's gone. Tommy Lee Billington, 11 years old, from the UK. He inhaled fumes from an air freshener at a party. He went into cardiac arrest. He died on the spot, 11 years old. Here's what makes chroming so insidious. The products used are completely accessible. These aren't drugs you have to buy from a dealer. They're not controlled substances. They're things your parents pick up at Walmart. Deodorant, hairspray, compressed air for cleaning your computer. And a lot of kids genuinely don't understand how dangerous this is. They think, well, it's just deodorant. I use it every morning. How bad can it be? Extremely bad. Here's what can happen when you inhale these chemicals. Immediate effects, disorientation, euphoria, that's why people do it, dizziness, slurred speech, loss of coordination. Sounds like being drunk, right? But it's far more dangerous. Short-term dangers, asphyxiation, you can suffocate, seizures, loss of consciousness, cardiac arrest, instant death. Long-term effects, if you survive and keep doing it repeatedly, permanent brain damage, liver and kidney damage, hearing loss, bone marrow problems, and psychological dependence. Many of the chemicals in these products, toluene, butane, propane, fluorocarbons, are extremely toxic to the nervous system. They literally kill brain cells, and the damage is often irreversible. There have been cases of teenagers who became chronic huffers, the people addicted to inhaling chemicals, and by the time they were 20, had the cognitive function of an 80-year-old. They couldn't remember simple things, couldn't learn new information, struggled with basic tasks. Their brains were permanently damaged. Parents across the country started hiding aerosol products. Some stores began moving them behind the counter or into locked cases. Schools started holding assemblies warning about the dangers of chroming. But here's the problem. You can't hide everything. These products are everywhere. In the bathroom, the kitchen, the garage, at school, at a friend's house. And if a kid is determined enough, they'll find something to inhale. Australia started looking at laws that would make it illegal to sell aerosols to minors. But that's hard to enforce because these are legitimate products with legitimate uses. The real solution has to be education. But how do you educate kids about chroming without giving them ideas? It's a fine line. You want to warn them, but you don't want to teach them exactly how to do it. And social media platforms, TikTok says they remove chroming content. But the same problems exist. The content is already viral by the time it gets taken down. Millions of kids have already seen it. And the algorithms push shocking content because it generates engagement. Okay, guys, we've been through some really dark territory today. From kids choking themselves for TikTok to teenagers inhaling toxic chemicals. And if you're sitting there right now feeling depressed about the state of humanity, I get it. Admit it, it was cool, or just weird. Either way, you're still here. You know the rules. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment saying I'm a genius, or a complete mess. See you in the next madness. Stay with me.